Welcome to Toffee TV. We are continuing our season review and we are looking at the midfield today. If you've not checked out the defence one we did, it's on the channel, so check it out. And we are moving on to midfield players. This is obviously an area, certainly for next season, of concern. It's certainly an area that Everton need a lot of work in, I feel. And we'll see what happens as we go forward. But I mean, what did you make generally of Everton's midfield last season?
Obviously, we started with an idea, with the plan of what we wanted to do with the wingers and the two centre midfielders. But unfortunately, like a lot of other positions, we just didn't have enough backup for Allan and for Doucoure and like players. We didn't have any creativity in there, in those kind of games where, you know, you can't play in the counter-attack and a player to open the opposition up. Obviously, we sold James Rodriguez, into September. We obviously didn't have Gylfi Sigurdsson available. And there's just no creativity, so that was a major thing. And as I said, not having like-for-like players really hampered us, and obviously a lot of injuries as well. So it probably, is the biggest area of concern going forward, finding that balance. We played a lot of the season with two centre midfielders when really we needed three. So that's something they're going to have to address going forward. But we don't have any goals from midfield really either. So it is a real area of the pitch where we're going to have to transform over the next season or two, because it's just not up to the standards of a lot of other teams in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's fair comment. We'll see when we go through the goals in a minute that's a big glaring issue. Obviously, when we did start the season okay, but once the injuries started hitting and we lost like to Doucoure, got injured against West Ham, didn't he? He was out for a while. I think we just didn't have anybody who was capable of coming in and playing that same role with the energeticness that he brings, the legs in midfield. We didn't have that. And there's nobody like him really in the squad. And when you've put together a squad and have had money, it still makes me scratch my head as to how there isn't three Doucoures in our squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's the basic requirement really of the Premier League. We're seeing at the time of doing this video, Tottenham buying Basuma from Brighton and another big physical player that can get around a pitch. These are the players that Everton, I'm not saying Everton could have gone and got Basuma, but go and get him before he becomes, a player that the top clubs want. And that's where Everton have to do their work now. And it is a huge area of concern. Let's begin with Andre Gomes. Why not? Obviously, been at the club a while now. There was rumours last summer that he may go. Benfica, Porto was sniffing around a little bit, but there was no real takers. They wanted I think they offered £1.5 million or something for him, which was mad. He ended up staying, and we hoped that maybe he'd find his feet this season, but it didn't really happen for him. Let's have a look at his stats. 14 games played, 7 starts I think he had. No goals, 1 assist. Averages 1.1 tackle per game. His passing accuracy is 77%, and his total duels won is 36% for a centre midfield player. One thing he's good at is his ball pressures. His average is 28.79 per game, which puts him on the 99%. That puts him in the top 1% for pressing the ball, and his dribbling's up at around 96%. Success rate for his dribbling, but nothing comes of it, as you've seen with big chances. He doesn't really create any big chances. No goals, 1 assist. And he's just... The first season that we saw Andre Gomes when he came in, he was really good that season. Excellent on the ball, carried the ball for us. But the two caveats to that are he scored 1 goal that season still. But he also had Ghana behind him, putting a lot of the fires out, and then he got the injury, and he's never quite been back at it. What have you made of Gomes?
He's crap. He's crap. He's honestly, he's
for
not
what we need.
He's not worth a carrot. He's just not worth any. He hasn't got anything. He's got anything that we need at all. He doesn't. He can't score. He doesn't have any assists. He can't tackle. He gets run past all the time. He had one good game all season. That was against Brentford in the FA Cup. He doesn't offer anything. He's injured all the time. He offers nothing, and they need to get rid of him as quick as they can because he's just not good enough. And that's not being personal or anything. And obviously, he had the devastating injury. You know, in 2019, he's just not good enough. He's not anywhere near the levels required. He can't get around the pitch. Every time he seems to lose the ball, the opposition seem to score from it or get an opportunity. I can't be any more blunt. He's not worth a carrot to us. You know, he looks lovely and he gives out great hugs, but nothing. There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
Yeah, it is disappointing. He's flattered to deceive so many times. Good in possession sometimes, switches the play nicely at other times, and then I just think back to the Brentford game at home and Crystal Palace, and he was dreadful in those at the end of the season. I don't think I think he wants to do well, but it's just not there, and it is a case for Everton. It is time to get ruthless, and I imagine if they can, they'll move him on this summer, and maybe a move back to Portugal, a little bit slower, where he can just get his foot on the ball and get involved that way. Next on the list, Abdullah Doucoure, who I thought was a little bit up and down this season. I think he gets stick sometimes. He's not great on the ball. He is loose with his passing, but a lot of the time he's left in a two-man midfield where he has to do. And on occasions it was with Gomes and people like that. He's had to do their work, but for me, he's the midfielder. When he's not in the team, we miss the most. Yeah, because we simply just don't have anyone who can cover the ground the way he does. I mean, what do you think?
Started the season really well, and obviously he got the goal on the first game of the season. And the first few weeks, him and Allan looked great. You know, they done well against Leeds. They done well against Brighton.
Burnley at home, remember?
Burnley.
He scored the goal. That was
disallowed, but his pass to get Gray
away.
He started the season really well, but then it's that thing of there's no other options.
He got the injury, against West Ham.
The injury, and he was.
Don't forget Man United away, broken.
Brilliant, and I think that was almost like the showing you what Rafa Benitez wanted from him. The stretching teams on the counter attack.
Broke his foot a week later.
Of course, and not having that replacement or not having that someone who's like for like is just so huge. So, and you can't, he's 29. You can't rely on him all the time, and you need someone to back him up. So there was games where, again, you mentioned it before, having just the two of them in there, he was stretched. When we played Leeds away early on in the season, they made a change, and you suddenly were outnumbered in midfield, and that happened quite a lot. And all it would have taken was for them to bring Delph on in that game, which they did later when it got to 2-2, and we would have had complete control. And there was far too many occasions during the season where the opposition just looked at those two and said, well, we'll just put an extra man in there and we'll outnumber them. And that's not his fault, that's not Allan's fault. Far too many times that happened, and that's because of the strength of the squad. So, listen, I think he, like you mentioned before, it's not a particularly great season, but it's so noticeable when he's not in there. And I know when he come back from injury around, February, March time, he looked so off it, and then Frank Lampard left him out for a few games, and he come back for the Merseyside derby, and he looked refreshed, and he looked on it, and I thought for the rest of the season then, he done really well. But that shows you, it's all about squad strength, about having players who can come in. We look at players going to other teams and going, how's he going to get in that side? Or how's he going to, and it's simply because a player can do really well for 5 games and the manager go, come sit down now, put him in for another 5 games. And you get that balance over a season. And what we do and what we've struggled with this season is obviously injuries. Injuries are always going to come. Always going to come. Fatigue's always going to come. Suspensions are always going to come. You have to have those players who can step in and give someone a breather. It is a squad game, and Everton is still not anywhere near that level yet. And for someone like Doucoure, I think that's where it really hits us this season.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at his numbers. He played 30 times, 2 goals, 4 assists, averages 2.7 tackles per game, passing accuracy 80%, and wins almost half of his duels. Created 3 big chances as well, averages over a shot a game. If you're looking at other numbers, ball pressures 23.27 per game, just under 1 interception a game. So he is all action. I mean, 2 goals, 4 assists is not bad. I would have liked the goals to be 6, 7. And I think he's got that in his locker. That's what he averaged at Watford, playing a slightly different position at Watford.
He was 8 at Watford, wasn't he?
Could get into the box. We've used him differently, but I think in a 3-man midfield with him breaking forward, I think he can do the damage.
Which I thought when we played Arsenal, I think when we played Arsenal home, the game that we had to win, I think that's what won us the game. Is that I think we brought another centre midfielder on,
didn't
yeah, and that allowed and Gomes came on against Burnley as well, which meant he played higher up the pitch. And when we played against Arsenal, and he started getting the ball and getting higher up the pitch, carrying it, knowing that he had the 2 behind him. I think that's his real position. I think that's where you get the best out of him. But we've played mostly with a 2 all season, so it's...
And he's got to do the defensive work. Sofa score had them at 6.85 compared to Gomes at 6.35. I think that's right. I think he had a better season. Allan is another one. I think Allan's been a decent signing for Everton for the 2 years. I don't think he's been amazing, but I think he's got some really good qualities. He got injured, didn't he, towards the end of the season. He was struggling with a hernia for the last few weeks, and then obviously Frank Lampard had him on the bench just in case we needed him, and tried to not use him really. But again, I think at times he looked really good, and then other times...
Have we ever truly used him in the position that he plays in? You know, opening day of the season, I think... sorry, not opening day. Brighton away. He got the 2 assists. Well, he assisted for the goal and then assisted for the penalty. When he gets on the ball at times, and again, he's having that little bit of being a little bit freer, I think he's a good player. He's not a 6. He doesn't sit. He goes looking for the ball. And then that can leave you exposed at times. And I think what we saw is, again, around March time, when Delph came into the side, and Delph played as the 6, and he started having a little bit more... You know, a little bit. You know, we didn't play. I know we didn't start in every game, but he had more freedom to get round the pitch. I think that's his role. I think he is a box-to-box midfielder. And again, because we only played 2 in there, and the way they are, it's not a case of one sits and the other one goes. He always wants to go, and I just think we play both of them. You know, it's weird. They're not. Yeah. It's not their strengths, so therefore you get the criticism of them, which I understand. But I don't think we've used either of those players right.
Correctly, yeah. Definitely. Let's have a look at his numbers anyway. Played 28 games, no goals, 2 assists, averages around over 3.17 tackles per game, passing accuracy at 80%. And wins 46% of his duels, is that? Or 48%? A little bit far away, 46%. Other things, he has around 47.5 touches a game, which is quite good. Tackles have done them. Errors leading to goal, he made 1 error that led to a goal. 68% successful dribbles. But for ball pressures in the 97th percentile, and just under 2 blocks a game. So another one, he is busy. When he's on the pitch, he is doing stuff. It's just, if I've got to make a criticism of him, there's 2 areas of criticism. It's the goals. Still not scored a goal for Everton, you know, and you need that, and you've got a few for Udinese and Napoli, but he's not scored for us. And 2 is he leaves his position. When you're playing him in that defensive position, because he wants to get involved in the game, he gets sucked out sometimes. There's a big gap behind him, and it's because it's not natural for him. And you're right, when Delph sat there, it's enabled him to go and do, well, he's up there in the top 3% for ball pressures, going and pressing and putting people under pressure. It's what he likes to do. He likes to get tight to people. Doesn't like really to sit and have to patrol it. And he can do it. But I think his natural game is when he's allowed to run after the ball. So you're right, probably haven't played either of them in a position. Is he someone, obviously he's 30, 31 I think soon, is he someone who Because obviously there's been muted interest from Italy. Would you be prepared to let him go back to Italy, or is he someone because of the numbers?
I'd be prepared to let him go if we already had a replacement in for him. I think if we could get numbers in, but obviously we'd have to get numbers in. Obviously, you know, well, look, the midfielder's already stretched. You know, Gomes should already be out the door. Donny van der Beek is gone. You know, even though we didn't see him that many times. Delph's gone. It's not an area that we're blessed with a lot of players. So again, it's that situation where we already need players in, and do you want to replace another one? I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be against selling them, but I just don't think there's any point while we're stretched in that area of the pitch.
Interesting. You just mentioned them there. Fabian Delph, his time at Everton has come to a close. Yeah. I could understand why we got him at the time. It seemed, you know, it was
logical.
8 million quid. We just finished the season quite strongly, haven't we? But that summer we then lost Ghana and we lost Zuma and got Delph in, and you hoped, obviously, we made Andros Gomes permanent as well. We brought Jean-Philippe Gbamin in. So it looked like he was, you know, really solidifying that midfield, and he was someone who was going to sit and play, not every game, but play, you know, 20-odd games a season, and it just hasn't worked that way. And the frustrating thing, I think, for the Delph situation is when he's played and been on it, he's been more than a useful midfield player. Definitely. And could have been an asset to Everton Football Club. There was obviously issues with the fans and him. I think he went against the fans a couple of times and made himself not the most likeable player.
No, he's not likeable.
And therefore, Evertonians, I think, would be more than happy to see him leave. But it's been frustrating because if he could have been fit even 70% of the time, I think, and people might say, well, his injury record showed that he probably wasn't going to be that. I get that. But what I mean is when he was available and ready, he was useful. In
that 6 role, he's definitely useful. He does well. That's the most baffling thing. It's like, but he just, I mean, I don't know. You know, you mentioned it there that there's no love lost with him in the fans. He's not like a warm embracing player. He's not someone who'll come out and, don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for rally cars, but some of the things he's done, you know, anyone follows his social media and stuff, some of the things he said, and it just baffles. You just don't need to do it. You're a player who hardly plays footy.
He seems to almost antagonise Everton.
Exactly, like he's asking for it. He's poking the bear, and you just think, you're one of our players, and then when he gets on the pitch, when he played in number 6, he was fine. But then you knew that, you know, his body obviously just can't take it, and I don't know. He's come in and he's given us little moments where he's done a job, and you've gone, yeah, you know, there's the player that we thought we was going to sign. Someone neat and tidy. You know, I think we all thought when we were signing we were going to get like another Gareth Barry or a James Milner type or whatever, but it just hasn't worked out. And as I said, no one's sad to see him leave. Let's be honest. And he's earned a hell of a lot of money, which is what just the way it is, isn't it? In football, he's earned a lot of money, and yeah, we'll move on. We move on to the next one.
Let's have a look at his numbers anyway while we're here. Played 11 times for Everton this season in all competitions. In the Premier League. No goals, no assists. 1.6 tackles per game. Passing accuracy 84%. Total duels 156% of his duels. And again, it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? He's another player. I don't think he scored a goal for Everton, did he? No. Not that I can remember just off the top of my head. And I know he wasn't prolific anyway. He wasn't scoring lots of goals for Man City in a team that creates a million chances. So, but no assists playing in that role again. And like you said, you know, 11 appearances and a few of them were off the bench. It's just not good enough. And we needed someone who was going to take over the mantle of holding the midfield together from Ghana, albeit a different type of player. Ghana was energy and was everywhere. If he would have been fit, like we said before, most of the time, he'd have been important for us. I think certainly would have kept the stuff together. But it is what it is, and he moves on. Next up is Tom Davies, who had a, obviously, injury-ravaged season. Again, we're going from the sublime to the ridiculous, really, in terms of number of games. He got a terrible injury. Looked like he was out for the whole season. Came back, of course. Played against Arsenal on the last day of the season. Made the squad a couple of games before, didn't he? But Tom Davies is a tricky one, because I know, if I say split opinion, that's probably downplaying it a little bit. You know, I think a lot of Evertonians think he's not good enough. I think he's fine for the squad. I think if you give him a defined role, I think he proved that under Carlo Ancelotti, that he can play in a 6. Is he as good as people want him to be in that role? Possibly not, but if he keeps learning, you never know. I think he's brave on the ball. I think he'll take the ball under pressure. He works hard. Everton still need more energetic, physically stronger midfield players.
I think the big problem he got at the beginning of the season was when they changed the rules and made, you know, like fouls, fouls, and he couldn't get away with stuff. And he's gonna have to work very hard on that. And obviously he has worked very hard in the gym to get back. And he said he had like a new appreciation of football. But his game and how he holds himself is going to have to go up a level. He's going to have to be a lot more physical. He's going to have to be able to ride tackles and turn on the ball. And I think his role is as a number 6. I think under Carlo we saw that, taking the ball off the back foot with, you know, making good angles to keep the ball moving. Next season is going to be
huge. Make or break, surely.
It's his last year really to. Really, you know, you'd be looking at that season going, well, what, are you going to give him a new contract? And yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, as you said, you know, I mean, you know, let's just look at his numbers.
6 games, 1 goal, no assists, averaging 0.5 tackles a game, 74% passing accuracy, wins 55% of his duels. He
hasn't done anything this season, so he's another one. And, you know, you look at him and you look at Delph and you look at Gomes, they're supposed to be the backup. And they've barely played any games. And yet Doucoure and Allan have both been out injured this season. And it just shows you how poor we've been in that department. And we're
1 goal between those 3 players.
It's appalling.
Yeah.
That's appalling.
And that was Tom Davies with a goal against Watford.
No, but even all of the centre midfielders so far, is that what? 3 goals we've seen them?
Doucoure's got 2.
Tom Davies got 1.
Tom Davies got 1. So we've done about 6 already, 5 or 6 already, and
that's terrible.
We're on 3 goals.
That's absolutely shocking.
Yeah, it's awful.
That's a disgrace. And people wonder why we were where we were.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's have a look at Dele. There's another player who, you know, played a handful of games for us. 11 appearances for Everton since coming in on deadline. They only started 1 game, which was the final game of the season. At Arsenal. No goals, no assists. Average is 1 tackle per game. Passing accuracy 77%. He's in the top 1% for ball pressures. He's in the top 3% for having touches on the ball, and the top 1% for blocks and stuff like that. So again, he came in and was busy, but it was only really, there was flashes of him. Leeds at home. The cross for Rondon, which the keeper makes a worldie from, and I thought that cameo, he was really good against Leeds. Crystal Palace, in a huge game. The Merseyside derby, when he come on, he was sharp. And Palace, he turned the game, as far as I'm concerned, against Crystal Palace. And that's it, few and far between.
It is an interesting one, isn't it? We sat here on deadline day, and when it came up, and, you know, it sounded really interesting, him and Donny van der Beek, and was it gonna? It sounded like that he was, you know, gonna almost build the team around him. But obviously Frank Lampard got in there and looked at it early doors. You know, he came on against
Newcastle straight away. Didn't he? The first half.
He didn't do anything, did he? And I think in the first few weeks, I think Frank Lampard had to make a decision, obviously, about the team. The team were nowhere near good enough to play what he wanted to play, and I think you know, he wasn't up to the pace either. And I think when it came to the point of when things were going to go back to the wall, he wasn't going to get used, and he wasn't. And I still don't know what that means for the future. Whether he's going to say, well, next season's a clean slate, and we start from we want to build the team around you, get a good pre-season, and you're going to be part of it. I really don't know. I just know that the second half of the season the team just wasn't set up to have a Dele Alli in it. It just wasn't. And as you can see there's a kid there with a lot of ability. We know that anyway. But is he too much of a luxury for Everton to carry? Is he a player that is really going to dig in, or are we going to, in the second half against Palace, there was flashes of him and Iwobi playing off each other. Are we going to try and pack the midfield with those kind of players? And have hard work. Everyone else needs to graft then, don't they? And you have to sacrifice other areas of the pitch. And I really don't know what direction that's going to go in. I really don't. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a dead interesting one. I was asked on that overlap about him, and I was like, I can't even guarantee he'll be playing for us next season. Exactly, and that's how it feels. And I don't know how the deal works. I don't know how Everton would do that if he didn't. I'm really not sure. But I couldn't sit here and go, he'll be playing for us. It'll be interesting, like I say. Another player who came in on deadline day was Donny van der Beek, and again another player that didn't play much football for us. Let's have a look at his number before we discuss it. 7 games played, 1 goal, no assists, tackles. He averaged 3.19 per game, passing accuracy 85%, and interceptions 1.66. Player that again, we were linked with last summer. He was devastated the move didn't go through in the summer, and we got him back on deadline day. Turned Palace down to come to Everton. Showed flashes, remember Leeds at home.
He was sensational.
He was excellent, comfortable in possession. Wanted the ball, bravery on the ball, but you just look at him and think, United didn't play him for a reason, and pace, no pace, no real mobility.
But I thought against Wolves that against Leeds that he really in a 2 really got stuck in, and he was first to everything and on the ball. But I was going to say the Wolves game, it was completely different because the defence weren't giving him the ball, and he wanted it. He was coming deep, and the irony was when later on the season when Delph was playing, they were giving him, but they weren't giving him the ball. And it really annoyed me that day because all we kept on doing is getting the ball and playing it wide and doing what we always do. And he wanted to take it through the middle and go at Wolves in a different way. And no one had the bravery to give him the ball. He was coming for it. So, the amount of times he came short for the ball in that game was unbelievable, and no one would give him it. And I think that showed the lack of confidence in the team around that time. They were so worried that we would lose possession high up and then the back forward after turn. I think that I do actually believe in a team with confidence playing in that role. He'd be all right. He's got the technical ability, of course, he needs to bulk up and stuff. But I do think that maybe at Man United next season now, if he gets more opportunities, he'll take that. But obviously then he started getting the injuries and it was a case of, again, it was like after the Crystal Palace game, it was a case of the manager felt like he could only trust a certain amount of people and didn't want to upset that by bringing... Because obviously early on we were chopping and changing so much under Lampard, but once he got that core group of players, it felt like that was going to be it. And he wasn't really part of it, and the long deal never worked. Really.
He got an injury, didn't he, in the warm-up at West Ham, which was the first game after Palace, and then after that, Ten Hag was announced, and it looked like he was just kind of like, well, I'm not going to bust the gut then because I know I'm going back. Didn't quite work out. He's got his only Everton goal in the 5-1 defeat at Arsenal on the final day, so there you go. Moving on, one player who did turn around a lot of people's opinions and certainly had a very good second half of the season was Alex Iwobi. Frank Lampard seemed to be able to reinvigorate and give him the confidence, and
massively.
When he was playing in the middle of the park, give us so much energy and so much work rate, to enough that he done a job at right wing back as well for us and did okay.
Well, it was actually the right wing back position that stuck out for me more than anything else. I think when we went to the 3 and he decided he was going to be the right wing back, you know, it was a job. He told him to do a job and he stuck to it. And obviously there's been a lot said about his commitment and his work rate and whether he wanted to be at Everton. But obviously Frank Lampard had spoke to him and found something there, give him the confidence and told him, you know, if you work hard, you'll play every week. He played right wing back, a very dedicated role, which he stuck to the task, you know, and he got the confidence back, got the work rate back, got the fitness. And you're right, there was moments when he went into the middle of the park. There's some games where, because of circumstances, he had to go into the middle of the park.
Even within games.
You know, and he you know, he looks brave. He looks brave. He suddenly had a bit of bravery about him. And fans responded, and obviously the goal against Newcastle was huge, yeah. A big winning goal that made you know that got him on the right side of the fans again, and from there on he just became a massive part of the team. And listen, I don't know what we're going to do with him, and saying he's not a right wing back. He's got far too much talent for that, but also his talent hasn't really worked so far. Funny enough, I've seen something just before. A Nigeria fan thanking Frank Lampard, saying in a tweet saying, "You've now given us a completely different player."
Like reinvigorated.
Yeah, because how hard he was working, and recently he hasn't even been playing for Nigeria. So he's you know, this is a player that Arsenal couldn't quite get a tune out of. We haven't had a tune out of. He's been forced into positions that he doesn't really want to play in, or aren't his, you know, he's always said, you know, he wants to be a number 10 or whatever, but Frank Lampard has got something out of him. He's got the, you know, he believes in him, and the player now is starting to feel loved, and maybe that's a big part of it as well.
And of course, all of that added up to probably his best season in Everton's yet. Overall.
It wasn't going to be difficult, was it? Really?
No, but he did it.
But he took it, got the ball by the horns.
And we needed it. Let's have a look at his numbers. Played 28 times, 2 goals, 2 assists, tackles averaging 2.03 per game, passing accuracy 80%, successful dribbles 56%. Other things like big chances created 3, dribbles, 56% of that, won 44% of his duels. Interceptions, 1.77 per game on the 96th percentile. 22.95 pressures per game, put him on the 93rd percentile, so very good at ball pressing. Worked his socks off. We've seen all of those numbers of he ran more than any other player and all that. So, you know, like you say, Frank Lampard's give him confidence. It's turned him into, he became a very important player for Everton at the end of the season. Now, you're right, what does he do now? Can he follow that up? Well, he's playing for Nigeria, he'll have a break, and then he'll be back at pre-season.
Well, he has to, there has to be some kind of defined idea of what his role is going to be at Everton Football Club. You know, he has, you know, I mean, you look at his numbers, there's still only 2 goals, there's still only 2 assists. That's not good enough. No. Still not massively good enough.
Well, you look at like his crossing accuracy, 34%.
Yeah,
Stuff like that's got to be big.
It's all got to be more than just. Don't get me wrong. Now that he's got the working hard bit under his belt, that's a good start.
Yeah.
And people are gonna have seen the other side of him now and are gonna give him a chance. And you know, let's hope that the likes of him and the likes of Dele and whoever they want to bring in, that's who we start building the team around. And then we start getting hold of the ball more and using it better and having a bit of physicality. And if he's working hard, he's not slow. He could be a big important asset. So he had a great second half of the season, or certainly after Frank Lampard came in anyway.
Definitely. Andros Townsend. A lot of raised eyebrows when he was linked with Everton and when he come into Everton last summer. But I think it's fair to say he certainly in the first half of the season turned into be quite an important player for Everton there, just with work rate and some goals. Obviously, this goal against Burnley at home was absolutely
goal of the season for me.
Absolutely fantastic goal, wasn't it? He had the assist on day one for the Charleston when we were behind against Southampton. Crossing, great balls into the box, into great areas. You know, let's have a look at his numbers. 21 games played for Everton, 3 goals, 2 assists. This is Premier League, of course. Average 1.5 tackle per game. Passing accuracy 78%. Crossing accuracy 29%. Though that's because he hits about 3 million crosses in a game. Yeah. And a lot of time he was putting those balls in Don, wasn't he? Yeah. So we were looking for Rondon, who was just glued to the spot. He also scored another 4 goals in the cups for Everton to put him there with 7 goals. But for a free transfer, come on.
Yeah, listen, for a free transfer, I think he done, certainly in the first half of the season, he done really well. And then, you could see, again, playing too many games. Fatigue started to come in. A little bit less consistent. Things changed, the manager changed. And obviously, but he's got, he always, goal against Hull, goal against Brentford in the cup as well. Yeah, so he always offered something, and I don't think it's his fault. He again, it's that thing of just not of overusing somebody. Big goal at Old Trafford. Let's not forget that. You know what I mean as well. Huge goal at Old Trafford. So, yeah, I'd say it was successful, and obviously horrible injury, which could put him out for till next year, unfortunately. But I think he always worked hard. You need a few of them in your squad. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. Just that he shouldn't have been for us. He shouldn't be a starter. And for too long, he was a guaranteed starter. And as you mentioned, if you've not got a Dominic Calvert-Lewin in there, then it's sometimes difficult to see. And obviously, as the season went on, I know we've got him in our midfield section, but obviously, as Anthony Gordon started crossing over, and and that's not a bad thing. That's good. That's a good transition. In fact, that's the kind of transition that we would have liked to have seen with, like, say, Seamus Coleman, where an experienced player starts the season and then a younger player starts getting game time as he starts coming off the pitch. An hour, 70 minutes, and then so it's just that it just probably didn't. There was some games where you looked at him and he just didn't offer too much, but for a free transfer, it's not the end of the world. So, yeah, disappointing for him, obviously, with the injury.
Yeah, I think he was good overall. Things were good signing. The game he got into, then he started really well at Palace as well. Some big goals for us, and really good squad players who have hard working. We've seen pictures of him actually in the gym, haven't we, today, working on his comeback. Probably be out, unfortunately for him, till the new year, but I guess, for the second half of the season he'll be a decent squad player to have in there. But overall, good signing overall. But quite clearly, the thing to take away from all of them is creativity and goals from midfield. There's none.
No goals and no assists.
He's the top scorer from midfield, Andros Townsend, and he was free transfer, and he was injured in a lot of them games he didn't start, and that says it all, really, doesn't it? As you're moving forward. Everton have got to, and it's difficult to do, but they've got to add goals from midfield.
Got to.
There you go. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Anything we've talked about, anything you think we've missed, let us know. And if you want more videos, including daily live videos, make sure you join us on Patreon. The link is in the description, and there'll be a QR code on the screen now. See you later.